Hello everybody. How are you guys doing today? My name is RODGON. I am an artist. I'm a designer. I'm a teacher. And today we are up at night because I can't sleep. So, since I can't sleep, we get to draw together. Come with me and you'll see how to draw from your imagination. Hi, everybody. Hello. So, we're not going to finish our sketchbook today. We're not going to finish it today. We're not going to draw inside of our sketchbook right now. We're going to be drawing on an outside piece of paper. And thanks to that, we get to use markers. So we get to use all these cool markers because we don't have to worry about bleeding. So that'll be fun. Now, we can draw Burny. Ooh, we can draw Burny stuff for sure. We can draw like a whole scene. We can totally draw a whole scene of Burny. Since we have markers and stuff, we can actually draw something really cool. So let's do that. Let's draw a battle scene with Burny. Let's see. We are going to have to come up with some thumbnails for this. Let's grab another one of these guys. All right, so let's do some thumbnails for Burny. First of all, if you guys are going to stay to follow the stream, make sure to like the stream. That is how I am able to get more audience. So make sure that you guys like the stream as you guys come in. And today we are going to be drawing Burny. So Burny is our little half-burnt bunny that kills dragons. I'm getting faster at drawing them too. So this is Burny. Burny is a half-burnt little bunny that has a magic wand stuck to his little nubby hand. And half his side is black, half his side is white, and one side is just like a little wand. He uses his wand to conjure up magical elements and magical creatures and whatever the hell he needs to be able to slay dragons. So that is the guy that we're going to be drawing today. Hi, how are you guys doing? I'm doing great. I'm doing fantastic. I'm having actually a really good night. I can't complain. Oh, we get to use markers today. And the beautiful part about actually using tan paper is that we're going to be able to use markers and color. And I'm going to teach you guys color theory. And I can teach you guys a bunch of things that I haven't been able to teach you guys yet. Because I'll be able to actually have access to those things. I normally don't use them because they bleed all over the place. They bleed through everything. So these markers, they're really nice. They're beautiful markers. And they leave like wonderful colors and wonderful effects. But they bleed like a motherfucker. And I hate that because I can't use both sides of my paper if it bleeds. And that drives me nuts. But it's definitely an option if you feel like using it on something that doesn't bleed through. Like, look at how badly that bled through. Right? That would have bled through completely through the pages. So, that is no bueno. This is our original character. This is our original character. This is not my character. This is our character that I came up with for us. So this is my social experiment. And this is our OC. I have made this open to the public. This is everybody's project. Everybody can draw Burny. Everybody can claim him as their own. Right? That is something that I wanted to do like a social experiment. So he is everybody's. We own Burny. Okay? You guys can do stories with them, products with them, whatever the hell you guys want to do with them. You guys have free access to using them. You guys can change the story and do something different with them if you guys want. If you guys don't want to make them into like a dragon slaying bunny, you guys can make them into anything you want. The design in itself is just a half normal bunny, half burnt bunny. Whatever you decide to do with that, you can make them into a psychopath, you can make them into a murderer, you can make them into a little plushie, whatever you feel like doing with them, you could easily turn them into anything else. I'll stab you. So, whatever you guys decide to use the character for, he's open game. You guys can have fun with him. That's what he's here for. Where are you from? I am from Mexico. I am from Mexico City originally. I moved to the United States when I was young. And I've lived in the States ever since. Then I moved back to Tijuana for a while. But that's just my living situation. I prefer being in San Diego. Okay. So we have a big square piece of paper. So we got to come up with layouts for that big piece of paper. So we're going to make little squares and we're going to do thumbnails. So since we're going to make them fighting a dragon, all right, it's going to have to be an overwhelming dragon, like something that's like literally about to eat him. And then him defiantly like looking up at him, like killing him or something. So that could be something that we could focus on, having like a silhouette of a dragon. And then Burny just like demolishing this guy like with his powers. So that could be one way of doing it. Let's see, what else could we do? We could make him slicing the head off a dragon. You know, like just slicing through it. That could be another way that we approach it. But it's not dynamic enough. So let's think about other ways that we can do this. So we could have like him chilling with his ears down. And then just have him be in like psychopath mode, where he's like all bathed in blood and just like drooling, like super gory. Like blood dripping stuff. And then have like little detail right here, right? A little bit of detail, and then have the body of the dragon, like you're following the body around from the tail, like wrapping around. Imagine that it's doing that. And then you have the body of whatever dragon he just decapitated. So we use the focal point of him, and then we kind of blur everything else, but we add enough detail to make it look like it's gore. So something like that might actually be kind of the best way to go about it. So let's do that. Let's do this one. That one looks kind of cool. I like that one. We didn't even take that long to come up with it. Cool. So now you guys get to see me draw with pencil too. and with white stuff. Where's my pencils at? What are my pencils? Hold on. No, they're in my sketch wallet. Guess I'm gonna have to draw with pink. Might not show up very well though. Sharpen, sharpen, sharpen. Okay, cool. So now we're gonna have Burny in the middle. So he's gonna be our main focal point, but he's not gonna be very big either on the page. It's gonna be about right here. I don't know if you guys can see that though. Can you guys see that? You guys can barely see that. I'm gonna try to make it a little darker. So that, his body is tiny. It's gonna fall right in the middle, and I'm gonna overlap it a little bit. Then from there, we have him resting on something. So he's gonna have his legs coming down. He's gonna have the tail of whatever dragon he just slayed going around. The detail of it coming around this way. Going around, and then we can focus on his little details for a second. Just map everything out in halves. Everything is so much easier in halves. Just mapping everything out. He's gonna be looking slightly up, so all the features are gonna be moved up a little bit. And then you're gonna see a little bit more of the underside of his chin. Let's see, can I like make it so it doesn't show so much glare? Jesus Christ. Then his ear is gonna be down. This one's a nub, so that one has to be up. Then this arm, if you want to draw chibi bodies, you split this in 4. You take the upper quadrant and you can make that into a little arm. His arm is a little wand, and he's going to use the wand to stab thingies. Stab, stab, stabby, stab. Okay, so now we have that, and then the other arm is going to be doing some magical thing over here. Fireball or whatever. Something over here. Okay, so let's add some detail so that we can work with this, and then it'll look really cool, and then we can work on the background and stuff like that. So the first thing I'm gonna do is I'm gonna start working on the eyes. The eyes are going to tell me the most of the expression right away. So in this case, I'm going to have him have like a traumatized, like anxious face. So I'm not gonna draw the pupils really, really detailed. I'm going to draw a lot of anxiety lines. So it's going to not necessarily be the cleanest line work, because I don't want it to convey a nice, steady image. I want it to look like it's distressed. I want it to look like the character is just gone through some PTSD shit. So as we detail it out, we are not going to focus heavily on super clean lines, because if we do, it's going to not give us the look that we need. I'm going to match this side, but this side is the burnt side. So this one's already going to be all sketchy and detailed, and it's going to have some scars. Okay. We're going to draw a little heart for the nose. We're going to add a little bit of a distinction right here through cross-hatching, so it looks like you're looking up on the little nostril stuff. That little tiny division makes a world of difference. That little tiny division is what literally makes it look like the character's either looking up or it looks flat. So I highly suggest that you guys just learn to like make little tiny, like in this one, this part would be the part that's in shadows. So I add a little tiny bit of a crosshatch. This side's gonna be all like burnty. So we're gonna do that. We're gonna add some texture, add some cross hatching to add some depth. Here, this side's all burnt, but it still has texture. It's still burnt skin. This little ear is gonna be coming up, but it's all bandaged up because he's all burnt. So we draw some lines. You got a little bit of darker tone on the top so it makes it look like it's bleeding or like stained because of that. Then we go on to the other ear. The other ear, the top of the head is going to be a little fuzzier on this side because the hair is not going to be all burnt off. Then we go on to the ear, and the ear is going to be going down. So we're going to draw the ear after we draw the body, because otherwise it's going to cover a little bit of the drawing and it's going to obstruct what we want to draw. We always work from the front back. Anything in the front is always going to be drawn first, and then you're going to draw something in the back. But we normally have to start with something resembling depth and stuff like that from the top. And add a little bit of color just to make it cool. This side, we haven't decided what type of facial expression I want to do, but it might be just literally a dot. And he's going to be looking up, or maybe looking straight at us. Yeah, there you go. That's probably. There you go. When you're working with white and you want to add little shadows, you always have to just go with where the light would hit directly first and then work your way back. And you're going to be able to use that to your advantage. Kind of like a gradient, like a grayscale, like what you do with shading, but upside down. Right? Instead of drawing your shadows, you're adding your highlights. And if you learn how to do that properly, you can use it to your advantage. Okay. All right, so now that we go on down to the body is going to be connected right here. Right there at the bottom, and that's going to be where our general body is. His body is really simple. His body is just like a little ball. So we don't have to worry too much about the detail of the knees or the stomach. He's just a little ball. Okay, he's just a little ball. So if you combine them together, it would just be like, I don't know, like a mushroom or something. Then from there, remember, we divided this into a circle and we divided it into fourths. That is going to allow us to have these little arms coming out to the side. We're going to have one arm over here. And then the other arm, he got it chopped off. He also has it bandaged. But he has a piece of never-ending dragon fire wood with a flame stuck in there. So that is what gives him his magical powers. So it's a never-ending flame at the end of this tip. Okay, so now we have his body. Now we got to divide it in half. Draw a little circle for his belly. Okay, so now we have his whole body, and then his little feet are just little ovals. A little bit of drop shadow is what gives me enough detail to be able to make it look different. I'm gonna make this side a little bit more fuzzy to make it look like it's a little bit more singed, a little bit more burnt. Same drop shadow underneath. Grants me a little bit of depth. Now I'm going to add a little bit of cross hatching to this, but since I'm going to be using pen or markers, I'm going to experiment with actual colors instead. Since we have the ability, and why not? So instead of making cross hatches, I'm just going to color them in. Alcohol markers are really fun. Alcohol markers allow you to do a lot of very heavily saturated artwork, but it bleeds so much. So you have to use the right paper and you have to use the right materials with it. Ballpoint pen works really nice, and therefore it provides you like really nice saturated colors, and it doesn't bleed anything at all. So I highly recommend ballpoint pen if you are going to be drawing with markers like Copics and like stuff like that. These are Illo Hue sketch markers. They sent them to me for free because I just do so much for them. Like I promote their sketchbooks pretty much nonstop, so they send me free stuff. I never use the markers, mostly because I just never have a reason to. But now I do. Let's see. So I want this side to be. This side's gonna be. He's gonna have like a fireball or something like that over here. I highly prefer watercolors. Highly prefer watercolors over any marker. It's just I like the end result a lot more. The reason I'm adding red is because the red from whatever this ends up being is going to be shining onto my character a little bit. So I like to add a little bit of that lighting because that's affecting it. And even if it's very minuscule like that, it makes a difference. So white belly. And now we can start working on the background. So now we have our dragon with this fire. Okay. So now we get to play with the dragon. The dragon is going to be pretty fun because I get to do it with just silhouettes. So the dragon in the back, he's going to be decapitated. So we decided to go with this one, where he's decapitated the actual dragon in the background. So we have to draw it really quickly. Let's see. So it reaches the very top. So it's going to be around there. The capitation is going to be right here. And then we got to draw the head of the dragon going into perspective. Laying down. Maybe some horns. Yes, no. There you go. Okay, so he just has to encompass that general space. And if he goes out of the page, even better, because he just looks bigger. Draw some wings coming out, some silhouettes, and I think that will be it. We'll draw the dragon's like paws and stuff like that because he just died. So he's probably gonna have like no hands because Burny's a sadistic little bunny. He's gonna have chopped off his hand too. I'll draw a claw or something over here. Okay. Maybe draw like a big chip on his rib cage or something too. Yeah, he is a mean bunny. He is a mean little bunny. All right, I think that's good enough. I think I can go off of that. I'm going to choose, since we chose a pink, what color would go good? Maybe like this color maybe? Let's see. No, that's too similar. Let's try a mint blue. Oh wow, all these colors look the same on the actual like textured paper. Let's try deep yellow. No, that's gonna be too yellow. Let's try this one, pale cream. Yeah, that one works. Screw it. All right, so we're gonna do all the detail here. We're just gonna saturate this with color. If you go slower, you get nicer lines. If you go fast, you get streaks. If you go slow, you let the alcohol flow better from the marker. So if you go slower, you actually allow the ink to flow onto the surface. If you don't, if you go really quick, you don't allow that to happen. And then there's only so much ink that is held by the brush at any given point. So you have to let it replenish every so often. So you go in small spurts, and it's alcohol, so it blends nicely with each other. As long as you don't take too long in between coats, it's going to lay down nice and even. Okay? So that's how you can use that. And then later on, you can go back in and create more layers, create texture, stuff like that. Okay. All right, so that's for this. Let's draw. Oop. It got so wet. Ah, there you go. Look at that. It gets all sticky because it bleeds through. Let's draw the tail. I'm gonna draw the whole body. Screw it. I'll just draw everything. Just outline it really quickly so I know exactly where I'm supposed to have it. And again, most of this is going to be just detail in color, so I don't have to worry too much about. I just have to saturate it. Always try to go with your marker strokes in the same direction. Don't go in all sorts of directions. Don't do this. Don't do cross-hatching with your markers because it'll leave you horrible, horrible streaky stuff and it just looks like shit. So always try to go in even strokes, slowly, so that the marker actually has time to replenish the alcohol inside. And you can actually get saturation that you need. Okay, that is very important. If you're gonna use if you're gonna use a material, you gotta learn to use it properly. You can't just go at it. Well, I guess you can. That's how we learn. But if you actually want to get better, like learning proper technique for certain materials is very important. And since we're going to be playing around with a lot of conceptual work in the next sketchbook, we're going to be using a lot of different materials. So we're going to be using charcoals, most likely. We're going to be using a lot of different things. So that's going to be really fun for us, because I don't think we've ventured into that sort of like realm yet. Not with you guys, at least. I haven't like actually like taken the time to venture into color theory or like anything of that nature yet with you guys. And it's because, you know, I believe that your fundamentals are way more important. Like your perspective and your anatomy is way more important. But it's also really good to learn how to do all the other stuff that's not so basic. Okay, so now we have our dragon's body. Cool. It's going this way. All right, dope. Now we can work on more detail. So now we can work on the detail inside the dragon. So we're gonna do scales, we're gonna do all that sort of stuff. So what I like to do at first is to make sure that it doesn't get stuck on the actual page. And then I'm not going to outline anything. I'm just gonna go in and sketch like little shadows on top of my character that allow me to ground this guy onto this shape, right? By adding these little shadows that go onto the other shape, I'm grounding my character and I'm making it look like he's actually standing on that. That's step one, grounding my character. Then the next step is to add details of perspective. So if I just go and I just add the little like scales just going the same direction and just going bleep, 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 it's gonna look really So what you gotta do is you gotta like break that concept of just having perpetual just lines. And by doing lines inside of the shape, instead of just doing the little bumpies going over it at the edges, like having these little crests and stuff like that happen at different intervals, not necessarily just the edge, is going to allow you to get a sense of depth. It also allows you to get a sense of perspective, because now you get to draw elements that go around your shape. You can add little scales, you can add little tiny minuscule details if you want. And then you fill in the spaces. Is this the one I was using? Yeah, pale cream. Yeah. Right, and if I feel like it, I can just do it over here too. I can also make it so this is flipping over, so it looks a little bit more cool. So you're like seeing the underside of the tail instead of the upper side. And you give a little bit more depth, a little bit more of a story, a little bit more coolness to it. Okay, so now we have that. The bottom part of the dragon is looking kind of cool. Let's add a little bit more detail to Burny. Gonna add a little bit of texture to his body by just adding little cross hatches to his burn side. A little bit more cross hatching for a little shadow. And since this is the darker side, his creepy side, I'm gonna add a little bit of cross hatching to add some elements of a stress or anxiety to this eye. Okay, just little details, little minuscule lines can change a lot. Like making this area a little bit darker is gonna make it look a little bit creepier. It's also gonna give me depth. I can do the same thing for the outsides. I can darken the bottom parts of his eyelids so he looks like he has darker eyes. If I darken lines on the side, I can make it look like he's dripping blood and stuff like that. I can make it look like he just stabbed the dragon by adding little black drippy parts and then just having those on the actual floor. All right, so that's one. He'll be moving his fingers too, like da da da. And then this side, maybe he will have his floating eyeball friend. There you go. I like that. This is so tough. Burny is looking sharp. Very nice. Oh, thank you. All right, so he has officially killed the dragon. He has there's a bunch of space right here though, right? So all this space is gonna have to be filled in with something in general. I'm going to try to like see what colors look best with purple or with this like color. That's why you use your test sheets to see what colors complement each other nicely. You can do a lot of tests, see what stands out the most. This one is making it stand out a lot. And then since these are really dark colors, I think this color would look really nice. Let's see, we might mess it up. But hey, we're only gonna learn by doing. So let's go ahead and do it. We're gonna go in and we're gonna add like the texture, like the grass and everything with this. So we're not gonna use lines to define the different sections of the actual characters. We're gonna use color. Okay, by choosing two colors that don't really blend in with each other, that stand out from each other, we can generate a lot of depth. And check this out. When I go into this section that's supposed to be next to a really light character, it just all of a sudden made this character pop 10 times more. So now the orange is gonna stick out more. The white part of him is gonna stick out more. And it should be dark enough to make the pink from his dark side stand out a little bit more. At this point, I'm just gonna do a light pass just to get the saturation in there. And then I'm gonna draw some little details in there to make it look like some environmental stuff. This will dry a little bit lighter than what it's putting out. As you guys can see, it starts to lighten up a little bit when it starts to dry. When it's wet, it tends to be a little bit darker. And in this case, I'm not really too concerned with having it be completely even because I'm gonna be using environmental textures like grass and stuff like that. So I'm not going to be too concerned with any streaking or anything that happens. I just kind of want to get the saturation there, but of course you don't want to rush it if you don't need to. And blend it in nicely if you have the chance to. Okay, you see any little streaks? Just blend them out by going in, blending it a little bit nicer. Okay. Okay, that'll dry relatively same. Now we can go this way. Now, since this side is lighter, we can also make it so that the environment ends where that starts. So we're using the law of contrast now to be able to get a semblance of depth, and you're gonna see how easy it is to create depth and perspective through this sort of stuff. we go. We'll add some vines or something falling down. Okay, and then we're gonna make this into like a ledge. We're gonna be grounding our character over here. By adding elements of organics, like grass. So now we have a ledge. The dragon going into the ledge in the back, and that's going to allow us to add a different color to be able to enhance this side with color theory, as opposed to making it look blurry because of a color that was a similar tone. So we get to have a lot of fun with that. And just like with everything else, if you have like proper technique, proper like knowledge, you can also just do these stuffs like no problem. Okay. It's all about just having the proper technique. Actually, you know what? I'm going to just fill this in. I don't mind. It's fine. It's not supposed to be that detailed of a background anyways. Okay, cool. And then the dragon's blood is going to be falling down here. So that's going to be cool. We can move the perspective back a little bit by adding a little bit more here to fill in the space a little bit better. So we move that back a little bit. Okay, dope. So now that we have our character scene, we can now start adding the rest of the details to this. And it's gonna start coming out, like coming around a lot nicer. So now we can add little details to the flame. Okay, so if we move back out here to the dragon, now we can start adding some details, but I think I want to add a lot more stuff with color. So I think I want to add the shadows and the cuts and stuff like that with color. So I want to just grab a darker tone and add a lot of the elements in color instead of using, because that's what I'm going to practice next book. So I'm going to practice a lot of color stuff. So I want to take advantage and just be able to use that as much as possible. So using color instead of line work is going to help you develop the ability to draw through contrast. And you'll be able to draw some pretty cool stuff. Remember, he just got killed, so he's gonna be bleeding. He'll be bleeding all over the place. Let's move on to the back. a couple ribs, but you'd probably see more blood. Oh, his arms too, huh? His arms are like right here. His arms were cut off too. And then it goes into the claws. Cuts his finger off too. Fuck it. Alright, so there you go. Have most of the details from my little dragon. Gonna add a couple little lines, cross hatching and stuff. Okay, add some little strings of blood. All right, I think we are good enough to be able to start coloring with our pen. Do 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 do. Oh, I love being able to draw. Being able to draw is one of the coolest things in the world. Like, it honestly is. It's one of the most, like, beautiful things that you can actually do. It's nothing but bringing pure beauty onto the world. Like, that's how I see it. Like, if you're able to draw, you're able to bring beauty and loveliness to everything around you. You can make a beautiful little piece of paper that's just white and without any details or love. And you can make that be the most majestic masterpiece out there. Like the Midas touch of beauty. That's how I like to see it. So you guys all have it. So just remember that. I've been watching a lot of Disney songs lately. What pen do you use? I'm just using a big pen. Nothing special. I don't like using things that are very expensive. Not that I'm cheap or anything. Maybe I'm a little frugal, but I'm not necessarily doing it because of that. It's more so because I don't want people to not be able to draw the things or feel intimidated by the concept of having to draw things outside of your realm with things that are expensive, or maybe you don't have like the material like means to be able to buy like Copics and markers and shit like that. So I don't like to make people feel excluded, right? Especially through financial means. That is the one like thing that I absolutely hate the most. Like, I absolutely detest the whole idea of having to exclude people mostly because they can't afford the materials. That is so sad to me. And it's, if I could avoid doing anything with anything that, excludes somebody from being able to use or learn, I would do that in a second. So I started doing a lot of highlighter. I used to draw with highlighter a lot in a lot of just ballpoint pen and cheap sketchbooks and stuff like that. And the one thing that I did notice is that the one thing that you really should splurge on a little bit is your sketchbook quality. Now, that is the one thing that you should actually splurge on because, if the paper sucks, then you can't really do much. So it's if the paper or like the book is falling apart and shit like that, then it's kind of like it's a super deterrent. Like it doesn't make you want to do it more. It makes you want to do it less. And that's the opposite of what we're trying to aim for here. We're trying to get inspired to draw more, not necessarily feel like we need to draw less because we are all like stressed out and like we don't know what the hell we're like doing. Like, oh, the page bled onto my really cool drawing I did. Oh no. Okay, well then that sucks. That's actually really sucky. So, that's why it's important to actually pay attention to your sketchbooks and like the paper and like learn the paper weights and like learn what like all that stuff means. Because that's going to be a big determining factor if you actually like the books or not. And that's how you avoid having a quadrillion sketchbooks that you don't like. There you go. Cool. That's kind of looking cool. Dope. Now let's start adding some details of the environmental stuff. So in this case, we decided this was going to be like a ridge. So all we got to do is add a little bit of shadows underneath. Little cross hatches will be more than enough to separate the top layer, making it look like grass or something, as opposed to the bottom layer that could be like rock or stone or just a cliffside, So if you just add different textures, I'm going to also add a little bit of cross hatching next to him to make him pop out even more. Baby cross hatches have the power to be able to make something pop. You don't have to add a lot of them. You don't have to add entire big blocks of lines, but just a little bit of darkening on the side can make the upper part look much, much more forward, especially if you're having issues with contrast. Like if you need to make this stand out more, I need to make something darker next to something lighter, right? If I add more dark next to something light, it's gonna look lighter. If you add more light next to something dark, it's gonna look lighter. It's just a very basic concept of contrast. Like if I add a little crosshatch around him, it's gonna make the white look that much whiter. Okay. In this case, I'm separating the whites here with the tone paper. But by separating it with a little bit of tone, I'm able to get all the differentiation and shadows that I need without oversaturating my shapes or my character. All right, so we have some shadows underneath. We have that. We have some rocks. Add a little plant or something on the side just for detail. Some little grass thingies, vines, blood, defining. Let's draw some grass going around the skull so it looks like it's grounded. Add a little bit of a shadow underneath them so it looks like it's there. So that is looking pretty dope. We just go in and we do the same thing throughout the whole piece. Just try to follow the other grass lines that we already drew so it's nice and uneven. Cool. And then the last step is to add some more little texture lines to make it look like this is grass instead of just a big blob of blue. Right? You always have to make sure that you actually add enough texture and detail to make something actually pop. Let's see, in this case, this could be like the cliff, just going off into the distance. So all this could be rock or just darker tones, which helps me out because it makes them stand out a little bit more. Cool. A couple texture lines to make it look like rock. Again, separate the top layer from the bottom layer by just adding a little bit of a line of contrast and grassy stuff. And then just add some grass. Cool. All right, so now we have our little character scene. Now, the last step, I'm going to add a different layer of that same color that we used. So I believe it was the deep yellow. Was it this one? I think it was this one. Or was it this one? I think it was this one. It's this one right here. So I'm going to use the same color orange, and I'm going to add another layer on top right here, only on top, to make it look like the dragon has a little bit of two-tone to his actual skin. So I'm gonna use again the color to add depth to my drawing. Okay, so I use that. I'm gonna use that on top right here. And then I'm gonna use it up here as well. Anything above this line, I'm going to add another pass. I'm also going to leave a little bit of rim light on top in case I decide to do any sort of lighting with this. Be careful with going over the same area too many times because it will smudge the ballpoint pen. So just be careful with that. Like, don't go over it with alcohol too many times because it will eventually bleed. So by adding that a little extra layer of color, I can do the same thing with the wounds. Just add an extra level of goriness to it. It's gonna blend in with the lighting a little bit. It's gonna make it a little bit messier. It's gonna make it look like actual stains of blood. The unevenness is what makes it look cool, right? It's the unevenness that makes it look really like, you know, like the scene is actually happening. If you don't have that, if you don't have random spots of unevenness, like splatters and random lines and shit like that, then things end up looking really, really static. So I'm just adding little elements. Cool. Let's see, we can add a sun. We can add some extra elements like mountains and stuff like that in the background to make the actual flame stand out a little bit more. And right now I'm gonna blend it into this, but I'm going to use the next thing, which is going to be highlights, to bring everything else out. So we have environment, we have a background, we have mountains, we have elements like grasses and stuff like that. So we have successfully completed like a nice little scene, right? That's kind of cool. And then we are going to use the last element, which is white. I don't have any gel pens, unfortunately. So let's see how this actually lays down on this. Oof, this does not lay down well. Okay, hold on. That doesn't work well. But how about this wax pen? Yeah, that one lays down a little bit better. Okay. So we're going to use some highlights. That's really light. That's really, 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 really light. Hold on, that's way too light. It's supposed to be skin. It's not supposed to be like... So maybe you have to use that one sparingly. Hold on. It's gonna have to be very, very sparingly. Like we're gonna have to be very, very meticulously soft with it. Because a little bit goes a long way. This side is going to have a little bit of white because of this. There would be light because of that. And that would be light because of that in the background probably too. Okay, in this case, there's a little bit of light, a little bit of there. Then we move on to the background, and we don't really have much to draw here highlight wise. Maybe a little bit of the teeth, but that's pretty much it. Maybe the eye. And then let's see how this lays down clouds. Nice. Very nice. We finish off with some environmentals. And we differentiate the clouds in the background from this by adding fog. All right, there you go. Not bad. Not bad for like a 30-minute sketch, right? Yeah. I like it. Cool. All right, so we now have the front page for our next sketchbook. So we can put this directly in here. Boop. Because they fit perfectly around. I got them as 8x8s So they fit perfectly in my sketchbook. How cool is that? Look at that. Boom. Perfect. Oh, that's gonna be such a cool sketchbook. It's gonna be such a cool sketchbook. But that one might be the cover on this side. Just to cover like that initial page right here. There you go. Oh, that's gonna look so dope. Now I need tape. Damn it, I don't have tape. But yeah, this comic is gonna be called BDSM. That sounds funny, right? So it's gonna be Burny, Bunny, Dragon Slaying Mage. So BDSM. So that's gonna be the name of the comic, or whatever story that this is gonna become into. And then we got to come up with an icon for him, which I think we already did. It's just a circle that's split in two. And essentially like that. Yeah, I like it. I like it. So, thank you guys for keeping me company for a while. I couldn't sleep. It's still pretty early, so I think I might still draw a little bit more. But we will call it day for Burny on that side. That's a nice little sketch that we did. Let's continue on this one, though. Kind of want to do this one. You forgot the grass. No, I didn't. No, I didn't. I drew all the grass in there. What are you talking about? So all the detail for the grass is there. I don't need to add every single blade of grass, but it's in there. It's enough. That is enough. Oh yeah, the other side of the till. But okay, let me tell you guys how something works, okay? Focal points. Let me explain to you guys how focal points work. On a blank piece of paper, we have literally no focal point, right? The moment that I draw something inside, like a person or a character, now my eye gets directed towards that. That is my focal point. Now, when you add a bunch of elements like this in the same page, you lose your focal point because you don't know where to actually focus on. But there's other tips and tricks that you can do to be able to identify the focal point of your piece. You can eliminate the other things by not making them important, and then therefore making this the focal point again. You can make that middle thing a little bit different by adding a color, some sort of distinction, even a simple line that leads to that character can help it be a focal point. So there's a bunch of different ways that you guys can create focal points. And one of them, the one that I employ the most, is focus through detail. So when you have something in mind, let's say we have 3 different circles, right? If I add more detail to this circle in the middle than I do to the ones on the side, where does your eye go? It goes to this one, right? I can add as many circles as I want around this, but as long as that middle one has more detail than the others, that one's going to be the focal point. So understanding that is one of the biggest focal things. So when you're drawing an element like a scene, right, and you need all your detail to be on the character, you draw everything around the character, but then anything that's not close to it or not even related to the actual storytelling, you don't really draw it in there. You draw minuscule detail for that. Right? If this is going to be the main focus, things like trees and stuff like that in the background don't need to be super detailed. They just have to be there in a gestural form almost, just to be able to tell the story and give you the focal point that you need. So the detail in the background sometimes is kind of irrelevant. That's why a lot of people don't put a lot of attention into it. Because the most important thing is understanding that most of the detail has to be where you want your eye to be. So that is contrast and focal points. So if you guys want me to continue, if you guys don't want me to call it quits, I need you guys to get me to at least 30K. If you guys get me to 30K, we'll continue. If not, we'll just call it a night. Let's see. You got to come up with different ways of giving him expressions too, though. Like when he's mad. Since one of his eyes doesn't ever have expressions because it's all burnt, we need to rely heavily on just one side for expressions. Let's see. Give him like a foreshortened flame sword. I love being able to draw. It's such a cool skill. Such a cool skill to have. Like, it's one of those skills that just brings joy. Like that's all it does. Like, it literally just brings joy. Like, that's why so many people get addicted to the whole concept of wanting to be an artist for a living. Because it's one of those few things in life that just genuinely makes people happy. And then whenever people see that, it's addicting. It really is. It really is an addicting feature. Like when you see that you can bring someone happiness when maybe they're feeling like shit or something, that's a very powerful emotion. Let's see. So if this is lit up, then that means that most of the lighting would be here. Heavy shadows would be contrasted in the back of my ear. And then all the shadows would be behind him, because the lighting is hitting him from the front. There you go. But he's on his tippy toes in this case. And his sword will have his eyeball. His eyeball, buddy. Yeah. I like that. 30K can't draw, but I can help with 30K. Thanks, man. You are awesome. Again, if you want to make something look lighter, let's say I want to make him look like a lighter tone, I just add a darker color next to him in my sketch, and it's going to make him look a lot lighter. By adding a dark thing next to a light thing, you make both of them more enhanced. You make one look darker and you make one look lighter. So learning the law of contrast is really important. Let's see. Yeah, the beauty of this is that we can make him with anything, right? Like, it's such a simple character. Such a simple character that it can be done into absolutely anything we want. Let's make him looking up this time. Which means that his little nose, instead of being at the bottom of his face, is going to be a little bit above his face. Right? So this whole situation with like moving simple characters like this up, right? It's actually quite simple. Let me explain it. So if we start with the little circle touching the bottom, and that's where we have our eyes, as we move that up, the eyes move up a little bit, but then these start rotating around. So they end up behind the character. Okay? So instead of being up here, they start rotating down. And as the higher you go, these move down even more. So as you move that up, the ears move down because they're rotating around a sphere. What happens when you go around the sphere enough? So if you have 3 circles going around, right, and you start with a point right here, well, as you go around, you're going to end up with a situation where you start seeing things from the other side as well. Okay? By learning little tiny tricks like that, like learning how to rotate a circle around is one thing very easy like this, but when you turn it into a 3/4, it becomes a little harder to be able to draw through your whole shape. Learning how each one of these extensions would like help you be able to determine like a mohawk or something like that is one step in the right direction with your studies. Woohoo, 40K. Awesome. So learning simple, learning how to rotate a simple character like Burny, which is a perfect learning tool, by the way. Learning how to rotate Burny is definitely a challenge, but at the same time, it's relatively simple that it shouldn't be incredibly difficult to get there. So that's just something that you guys can play with. Okay. If you guys master the simple ones first, the harder ones come easier. Again, we just show a little bit of a shadow underneath the nose, underneath this actual chin, and you got yourself depth. In this case, you wouldn't see the other ear because the other ear would be like right here. Remember, it doesn't go on the top, it goes on the back when it rotates back. So since this one's a little nub, you wouldn't see it. Some Band-Aid stuff. And then let's give it some color. Still haven't really determined what colors I want to use for them. Little tiny color changes can be all that you need. Minuscule color changes can make it look a lot better. If you want to make something look lighter, draw something darker next to it. Me estás simplificando muchas cosas con tus videos y este live. Hey, you're welcome. She's saying that I'm simplifying a lot of things for her in these lives in my videos. So, hey, that's the whole point. Yay, I'm doing something right. It's not always that I feel proud about myself. But my teaching definitely is one of those things that I'm proud of. Let's see, looking down, the midsection is there, then most of my eyes would cover most of the detail. Then we would have our little nose, and then our ears, instead of being at the top, would be a little bit up here. So therefore, they would be facing a little bit more forward. The muzzle would go around, and my eye would be like that. And then you can make them look all cute. Who, me? Did I kill you, Mr. Dragon? Oh, I'm so sorry, Mr. Dragon. Did I decapitate you? You should be proud of it. Sharing a lot of hard-earned ways. Hey, you know what? Like I've said a couple times, it's all about giving back to the community that has given to you. So even though I am very much self-taught when it comes down to the ways of drawing, it's not ever completely all self-taught, a lot of it comes from the inspiration that you got from people, the drive that people put into you, the things that actually we don't really take into consideration much. We always assume that we created everything from scratch ourselves. No, man. It's very rare that we always create everything on our own. And sometimes you have to just give credit where credit's due. When people help you, when people are actually beneficial to your life and your career, you should always feel entitled enough, or you should give them the entitlement enough to be able to give them the courteous, what do you call it? The credit, I guess. Don't assume that you've done everything on your own, because you probably haven't. For as much as an independent motherfucker that I am, I am constantly being helped by a lot of people. So it's always going to be a matter of just making sure that other people know that they're important in your life, and it keeps them helping you, Let's see. He's doing something here. What is he doing? What does this look like? This kind of looks like a burger. Like a dissected burger. like one of those like situations where they have like the burger and like separate sections. That's what I see. So he's a little happy bunny. I was gonna say making. Oh, maybe draw a warrior from view of ground up. So what you're doing is you want to be on the ground up. So you want to make a person look like they're like a building. That's what you're trying to do. So if you're trying to make a person like a building, that means that most of the features are going to be smaller towards the top. The way that I like to teach my actual figures, this would be incredibly simple for you to do. If you wanted to draw something like this and I were to teach you with like 20 minutes worth of time, you would be able to draw these things very, very easily. And not just that, you'd be able to actually make this into whatever warrior you feel like drawing him in. Let's make him to a samurai. Samurai have armor around their legs. They have their shin guards. And then they have their weapons. And maybe he's like going to war. Like, let's go! Onward, men! Tonight we dine in hell! But that's very straightforward. So if you wanted to draw this, but you wanted to make it even more extreme, you would have to like literally create such a perspective where everything is heavily foreshortened. So yeah, that's what you would have to do. You would have to like heavily foreshorten your poses in order to get that like ground up view. Eventually getting to the point where you would like see like the bottom of your feet. So that's how you would draw it. Have you heard of Kim Young-hee? If so, what are your thoughts on him? It's a gigantic loss of a talent that was well beyond what an average human or artist will ever achieve, right? Like his talent was wonderful. Like he was able to draw from memory pretty much any scene he wanted. And on top of that, be able to add as much detail as he felt like it to the scenes, which is really lovely. Like, I want to be able to get to that point one day. And I think I will. I think at one point I'll be able to. Because in reality, like, if I wanted to draw from memory and just wanted to fill up a page with random stuff, I can go in and I can draw random things. Like, without making it look messy, without making it look bad. You know, like, doing stuff like this is stuff that I have grown doing my entire life. Like, I've been a caricature artist for like multiple decades now. And by learning to draw caricatures, you learn how to draw the human skull. by learning to draw the human skull, you can learn to draw a bunch of cool things. And the more you get better at it, the more you can exaggerate, the more you can move things around, the more you can combine things, merge them, make them all look like the same thing. So it's just really fun to be able to do that. And like I said, the more you get experience in drawing random stuff, you're just able to do anything you want. Harlot, get out of here. Jesus Christ. How does one approach a company to start working as a concept artist? I don't know. I wouldn't be able to tell you. I've never approached a company to work for them. Like, I've never worked for a company for character design or anything like that. Not because I don't think I'll be able to get into the jobs. I think I would actually be very, very capable of doing those jobs. But do I want to? Like, that's the thing, like, for me. Is like, do you want to? Do you really, really want to work on other people's projects nonstop for the rest of your life? Or do you want to possibly be your own studio one day? Like, be the person that calls the shots. You be the person that tells the decisions. You be the person that gets to be on the credits and be known for creating that thing. Like, do you guys not want to do that? Like, the thing that confuses me is that so many people want to work for things like Disney and Pixar and stuff like that. But why? It's not because you're going to make a name for yourself, because okay, let's be honest here. How many artists do you guys remember from the credits of having worked for a movie that wasn't like, like widely known already? Like Aaron Blaze, yeah, he worked on, Beauty and the Beast, and like Bill Eisner and stuff like that. They work on certain specific ones, right? But how about all the hundreds of thousands of people that have worked on these movies that don't have that recognition, that didn't write the script? All the people that actually put everything together do you remember any of those? I promise you that most of the people that do that don't want to work in the shadows. I promise you that. They don't want to work in the shadows. They started working for companies like Disney because they want recognition. You don't work for a company like Disney if you want to be in the shadows. Let's just be honest here. So let me put it a different way. If you knew that you would never get credit, if you knew that you would never get credit for what you're doing, would you still do it? Would you still do the thing that you're doing right now if you never got any credit or recognition or validation for it? I guess if you say yes, then that is a good path for you. Because then you love it enough that you're not really concerned with, the whole aspect of credit. But if it bothers you that, people are making a shit ton of money, possibly millions of dollars off of your own hard or like worked like art, then maybe you should really rethink if you want to work for a studio, because that's all they do. That's essentially how they make their money. Like they take most people that are desperate or they want to be in the industry so bad, and they exploit them. And that's the reason that they can get those magnificent magical things out. That's essentially what's going on. So it's gonna be up to you where you want to set your priorities. Do you want to set your priorities in creating something as a legacy for yourself? Or do you want to create a legacy for someone else? And that's how I see it. So I don't want to create a Unfortunately, I have already helped many people. Not unfortunately, am very happy that I have. But I have helped enough people create a legacy for themselves through my artwork that I think it's time for me to do it for myself. The moment that you have helped a couple 100,000 people out, I think that you get the chance to help yourself a little bit. And even if you didn't, and if you didn't have that popularity or notoriety, again, if you are in the industry where you would do it, even if no one paid you, you're in the right industry. If you're in the industry where you would do it regardless of payment, then you're in the right industry. So I'll just put it to you guys like that. If you guys find yourselves struggling and like through hardships, but at the end of the day, you're happy because you're still doing something that you love, then you're already winning. You don't need much more than that. And just remember that because there's going to be points in time in your career where you feel like you failed because you are not where you want to. You haven't failed. You just lived life. And life is not always the same squeaky pattern all the time. Not everybody gets the same shit. Not everybody gets the same outcome. And not everybody gets to do the same stuff. Some people get to do something because they got lucky. Some people get to do something because they're really good at it. Some people get to do something because they learned how to communicate the right way. Every opportunity, every skill set that you learn, from talking better to writing better emails, to drawing better, to having learned patience, things like that. All that stuff will eventually lead you to have opportunities. And those opportunities are not always going to be there. So you have to jump on them whenever you have a chance. But if you do jump on them, you're going to lead to even more opportunities. And those opportunities lead to more opportunities. Then the more that you dedicate to your craft, those opportunities are going to be geared more towards the fields that you guys want to be into. So it's not a magical luck-based system necessarily. Your luck is very much dictated by how much opportunities you give yourself to be able to be seen, to be exposed, to be able to be noticed by other people. All that stuff comes from and stems from actually taking the time to give yourself opportunities. And you should aim to give yourself as many opportunities as you can by not pigeonholing yourself to a certain thing, by allowing yourself to see things outside of your normal realm of comfort, and by questioning all the things that you guys have learned so far so that you guys can progress to the next level. Because a lot of the lessons that we learn are beginner level lessons, and we never really move past from that. We never really progress past that because we always assume that we already know what we're doing. Oh, I took 2 perspective classes. I know perspective like a pro. I took 2 anatomy classes, and now I think I know all my muscles, but I still have problems drawing arms. Or I know all my muscles already, but I don't know how to draw legs. It's so funny how people assume their skill sets are complete without actually having knowledge. It's incredibly silly to me whenever I meet a student or a person that wants to learn and they claim to know something only to be shown very quickly that they don't, and then they don't come back. Right? Like they feel like they've embarrassed or they don't want to backtrack or whatever, but it's at the same time, it's like, well, that person's just not going to get better regardless because it's not in their nature to want to improve. So as you progress and as you get better and as you learn how to do things in cool, different ways, you're going to eventually come to the point where you gather enough knowledge where you're going to be able to do things like pose your characters in weird poses like I'm doing right now and having it look proper. Right? You're going to be able to play Twister and Limbo with your characters, and it's not going to be difficult. So that is essentially like what I lead to explain with all my knowledge. It's to show you guys that all this stuff that we are always trying to achieve is not as hard as we normally like to make it seem. We just need to learn how to see it properly. No, I don't like being told exactly what to draw. I'm not going to draw a fox. Nope. Now I'm going to draw a panda. Just because I can draw a fox, but since you told me and you're like repeating yourself like an annoying person, I'm going to not draw that. I'm going to draw the opposite, which is not necessarily a panda. A panda's not the opposite of a fox. But it's nice and innocent and cute. And it's not what you told me to draw. And that's the important part. Being rude will never get you anything. Not with me. Being rude is the only secure way to get like kicked out. Because I'm trigger happy, man. I don't care. Are these characters your creations? Yeah. Demand rejection? What do you mean? You're very inspirational, dude. I love your live streams. Aw, you're sweet. Can you draw my bunny that passed away last year? Only if you want. He is gray and white. Oh, that's so sad. So your bunny that passed away last year would probably be a little bit decayed by now. So he would probably be a little bit looking a little bit gruesome, dude. You might not want to be very happy with how your bunny would look. After a year of being buried, you're probably not going to be very happy with how he looks. He's probably not going to be the most pleasant bunny to have around. But if he's cute enough, he probably will still cuddle with you. You're welcome. But I don't know what your bunny looks like, so that's the only reason I go with like a funny approach to it. You know, like not to make light of your bunny dying. That's really shitty. So, you know, just know that I'm doing it out of humor and not like out of being mean. I know what it's like to lose a pet, and it's not the nicest. It's actually really one of the shittiest feelings in the world. So, just trying to do some humor. He was your first pet? Your first own pet? Oh, that's like Moustache to me. Oh man, if Moustache ever gets old and he passes away before I die, ugh, that's gonna be miserable. But by then we will both be old and scraggly and like super like old and ancient together. He's gonna look like he already looks like an old man, but he's gonna really look like an old man back then. At one point, he'll have like super long hairs for his beard. And he'll be like super tired to do anything. So he'll just be like chilling. And his little pet. One day he'll get old. But it's okay. He'll have a happy life till then. You're an art graduate. Congratulations. Me too. Congratulations. You have a paper that says you're an artist. I hope that you didn't pay too much for it. And I hope that you don't rely on it strictly to get a job. You're going to find that you're not going to necessarily need it as much as you think. And yeah, so enjoy building your career. Academy of Art in Chicago. Oof. See, I have a very strong feeling against schools like the Academy of Art or the Art Institutes because I went to both of them. Right? I went to both of them. I went for my master's degree to the Academy of Arts, and I left before my degree was done because I was just literally getting taught the same bullshit from my previous school, and I was not learning anything. I was teaching half the classes, and it ended up being that the teachers recommended that I leave because I was just literally wasting my time. So, yeah. So I don't have a huge love for like for-profit schools. I don't, and that's the reason that I do what I do. What I'm doing right now, what I do I stream every day, and I give lessons and I upload videos so that people don't have to go to those schools. Because those schools prey on people. Those schools prey on them. They prey on artists or young kids that want to be artists. But they don't give them the knowledge that are necessary most of the time to even be able to get employed. So you end up in a situation where a bunch of young kids sign up for these $100,000 loans, and then they can't pay them. And then they can't get jobs in the industry they want. So then they can't pay them at all. They default on their loans, and then they have to get jobs in another industry, which leads them to never be able to do the things that they want. Which leads to sadness, depression, not feeling like your life is anything, and you're going to feel like you have indebted yourself for life for something you didn't even get to do. So that's why I am here. That is why I'm here. I don't know if whatever the other people do. I don't care what other people are teaching or doing, whatever. What I'm doing here is to help people that have done that shit. Or people that don't want to go through that stuff. People that don't want to sign up for art school and be indebted for life. That's why I'm here. So take from that what you may. Do you have any constructive tips for character design? Well, pretty much my whole channel is character design related. So everything that I draw is character design related. It's anatomy, design, visualization, drawing from imagination. You know, it's all that stuff like posing, anatomy, and stuff like that all comes from understanding basic shapes. And I know a lot of people say that, but I teach you guys how to do that step by step. Like, I literally teach you guys every single step of the way. Just go watch some of my videos and you guys will be so much better so quickly. Can you, like, just learning how to draw the body in like 2 shapes is very important, right? An egg, you draw an egg for a rib cage with a compass. That's your upper body. That circle gives you your head space. Ta-da! These edges, these give you your armholes. And then right here, you draw a circle inside of here. And then you follow the outsides of the circle to create your legs. Bam. Oh, you want a different pose? Okay. Bam. Oh, you want the leg in a different direction? Okay. Bam. Learning how to draw the human body in different positions is very important. Learning how to make that into really simple shapes, that's normally really hard. But I have discovered a way to make it look and make it seem not so incredibly daunting. Do you prefer the Illo over Copic markers? No, I don't like Copic markers. I hate alcohol markers. I'm using them right now because, you know, I have tan paper and I have access to them right now. But I normally hate them. I don't like them because they bleed horribly through the paper. So you can't draw on, you know, on both sides of the paper normally if you draw with that sort of stuff. So it's pretty, but at the same time, Egg plus 2 noodles. Yeah, I guess so. Egg. And then you draw noodle number 1. And then noodle number 2. And that could be very easily the way that you draw your bodies. Very easy. Yeah, that works really nice. Can you draw someone reaching out in despair? Well, I don't think we have enough space for that. I think we have officially run out of space. I think we're done for today's stream, though. We went over a whole page of Burny, and then we drew a couple more things with them. So I think that we have a successful stream. We have successfully done this. Oof. Anyways, I hope you guys had a wonderful day today. I hope you guys actually enjoyed our lesson, and I hope that you guys learned a little bit more from something that maybe you didn't know before. This is the other one that we did. We ended up doing like a whole scene. And then we did a whole page of doodles. So we had a successful stream today. Cool. Awesome. Thank you guys so much for being my students. I hope you guys have a fantastic night, and I hope you guys have a wonderful, wonderful Wednesday. Hold on. No. It had black smudges. It's okay. Doesn't matter. The one in the middle. No, it's just another. It's just a guy with a backwards hat. It's nothing particularly special. Anyways, you guys are awesome. You guys rock. See you guys tomorrow for another lesson. Later, Gators.